The movie kicks off in the middle of America, within a busy fight club. Here, amid the noise of cheering fans and the lively energy of the crowd, two strong fighters, Harry and Ron, engage in a tough contest. Every punch and dodge they make is met with loud applause and excited cheers from the people watching. In the middle of all this excitement, a person emerges from the crowd, catching everyone's attention. It's Frankie, a young woman with a determined look on her face as she watches the fight. She eagerly watches the action, getting more and more excited as it goes on. As the fight reaches its peak, Harry, with his quick moves and smart tactics, starts to gain the advantage. His punches hit Ron hard, gradually wearing him down. The crowd cheers loudly as Harry lands a final, powerful punch that knocks Ron to the ground, ending the fight. But as the cheers die down and the dust settles, a new challenger appears, a person called Dalton. With confidence, he steps into the ring. Harry, always ready for a challenge, wastes no time in challenging Elwood, saying he is ready to face whatever comes their way. But when Elwood reveals their face, the mood in the room changes. Harry's confidence fades, replaced by a sudden feeling of fear and unease. He quickly leaves the ring, realizing that he's not ready to face whatever danger Elwood might bring. Without throwing a single punch, Elwood finds himself the unexpected victor, strolling away from the fight club with a hefty sum of money, leaving the crowd in awe and confusion. As Elwood makes his way toward his car, a man suddenly emerges and viciously stabs him, furiously accusing Elwood of causing him great suffering. However, Elwood seems unaffected by the attack and calmly tells the man that he should have thought about the consequences before attempting to harm him. Frightened by Elwood's reply, the attacker flees the scene. At that precise moment, Frankie gracefully approaches Elwood, extending her assistance. She tells him that she has been observing him, recognizing his potential as a formidable fighter. However, she points out that confining himself to small-time fights won't yield the lucrative rewards he could attain. Elwood readily agrees with her, acknowledging that these fights offer easy money with minimal exertion. As Frankie tends to Elwood's wounds with care, she candidly admits that her original intent was to recruit Harry for a job, but Elwood's exceptional skills have changed her preference in his favor. Intrigued by Frankie's interest, Elwood curiously inquires about her, prompting Frankie to share her harrowing predicament. It is revealed that she operates a quaint restaurant named ROADHOUSE in Florida, which has recently become the target of relentless harassment by local thugs. It has become a dire situation for her as even the authorities turn a blind eye to it. After this, Frankie approaches Elwood with a sincere plea for his assistance. She believes his fighting abilities could be the key to restoring peace and safety to her restaurant. Offering Elwood $20,000 per month and a place to stay, Frankie asks him to consider working as a bouncer to protect her establishment. Though hesitant at first, Elwood finds himself intrigued by the proposition, considering the potential for a fresh start. Following a narrow escape from a recent train accident that left his car wrecked but himself miraculously unharmed, Elwood reevaluates his priorities and outlook on life. The near-death experience serves as a wake-up call, prompting him to seriously consider Frankie's offer as he thinks about his next steps. Upon arriving in Florida, Elwood encounters Kat, a warm and welcoming bookstore owner. She extends a friendly hand, offering him a book that details the city's highlights. Kat's kindness and encouragement lift Elwood's spirits, providing him with a sense of belonging in his new surroundings. With newfound optimism, Elwood begins to embrace the idea of starting anew in this unfamiliar environment. Elwood's arrival at the ROADHOUSE marks a significant turning point, not just for himself but also for the establishment itself. The ROADHOUSE, a vibrant restaurant with a club-like atmosphere, gives a sense of promise and community that Elwood has long been searching for. As he steps inside, Elwood is greeted by Laura, the bartender, and a young admirer named James. To Elwood's surprise, James reveals his past as an ex-heavyweight boxing world champion, earning him newfound respect and admiration from those around him, including Laura, with whom he quickly forms a bond. Meanwhile, Frankie observes his interactions with a keen eye, perhaps maybe as she is reassessing her decision or simply intrigued by his presence. However, the peace and tranquility are short-lived. The usual calm atmosphere of the club is shattered when Del and his biker gang arrive, bringing chaos and tension to them. Their intimidating presence and aggressive behavior quickly escalate, resulting in Del harassing a girl, prompting James to step in and defend her. However, his intervention only provokes further threats and violence from Del. Assessing the escalating tension, Elwood steps in with a calm demeanor, proposing to settle their dispute outside the ROADHOUSE. However, Del makes fun of him. Despite Del's refusal and continued vandalism, Elwood remains composed, hinting at the potential consequences for their belongings, particularly their bikes parked outside. Stepping outside, Elwood confronts Del and his gang with bravery and resolve. A fight ensues between them. While demonstrating his strength, Elwood also shows compassion by taking them to the hospital, ensuring that the injured men receive medical attention after the fight. At the hospital, Elwood meets a nurse named Ellie. However, Ellie expresses concern that fighting prevents others from receiving necessary medical assistance. After hearing her out, Elwood admits that he fights for money, not to be a hero. As Ellie tends to his injuries, they engage in a heartfelt conversation about Elwood's life as a fighter, providing him with an opportunity to reflect on his choices. Through their interaction, Elwood begins to contemplate the true impact of his actions and the path he wants to pursue moving forward. Back at the Roadhouse, Frankie is impressed by Elwood and makes a promise to Elwood. She offers him a steady paycheck every week for his help. They both hope that Elwood's presence can help restore the Roadhouse to its former glory. In addition, Frankie offers Elwood a place to stay on a boat, which seems cool, but Elwood has to keep an eye out for crocodiles. Living there brings back memories of his past, especially an important match he once fought. Laura, another worker at the Roadhouse, brings food to Elwood. She shares that previous bouncers left because of trouble with the bad guys. Laura considered leaving too, but Elwood's commitment to the Roadhouse gives her a new hope that things might improve. Meanwhile, Elwood regularly visits the bookstore owned by Kat, and his interactions with Kat at her bookstore reveal her struggles to keep the business going after her mother's passing. Elwood's kindness and understanding towards Kat show his true character, earning him respect from the locals who begin to recognize him around town. Meanwhile, Dell's gang faces consequences for their actions at the Roadhouse. Their leader, Ben, isn't happy with them because they couldn't scare Elwood as they were supposed to. Even though Elwood doesn't fight back, Ben wants his gang to be even more aggressive, showing how tough they are. Back at the Roadhouse, Elwood's presence continues to have a positive impact on the atmosphere as he and James efficiently handle disruptions. In addition, Elwood's impressive mastery of martial arts leaves the customers in awe, further solidifying his reputation as a capable bouncer who can maintain order effortlessly. However, despite his outward composure, Elwood finds himself dealing with troubling memories from his fighting days. The recurring dreams and moments in his past show some unresolved conflicts that still linger within him, waiting to be addressed. The following day, seeking a hearty breakfast, Elwood heads to a nearby restaurant where he runs into Ellie. They exchange pleasantries, with Elwood expressing appreciation for the restaurant's reputation for delicious food and acknowledging the underlying tensions prevalent in the town. Ellie takes the opportunity to caution Elwood about the prevalent violence in the area, advising him to steer clear of any troublemakers he might encounter. Elwood listens attentively while thinking about how to best navigate the challenges that lie ahead while striving to maintain peace and safety in his newfound community. Later that night, as Elwood slowly walks home from the Roadhouse, his peace is disturbed by the sound of screeching tires. Dell ambushes Elwood as he turns his car towards Elwood at high speed. During this, Elwood's instincts kick in just in time, allowing him to leap out of harm's way as Dell's vehicle crashes into a nearby lamppost. But Dell doesn't stop. Elwood's heart pounds in his chest as he frantically searches for an escape route. He makes a split-second decision, jumping towards the nearby riverbank. Meanwhile, Dell accelerates his vehicle, aiming directly at him. This time, his car hits him and sends Elwood hurtling through the air, crashing into the cold, murky waters below. For a moment, the world goes silent as Elwood struggles to regain his senses underwater. With a surge of determination, he fights against the current, making his way to the surface. Gasping for breath, he emerges from the water. As Elwood trudges wearily back to his boat, exhaustion weighing heavy on his shoulders, he is met with yet another confrontation. Dell emerges with a gun in hand to kill him. But Elwood struggles for his life, and with a final push, Elwood sends Dell hurtling over the edge of the boat and into the water below. Suddenly a crocodile appears in the water and drags Dell beneath the surface, taking his life. The next day, Elwood thinks a lot about what happened with Dell. He realizes how dangerous the crocodiles in the area can be. Even though Dell was up to no good, his death makes Elwood realize how risky things are. After thinking about it, Elwood decides to leave to get away from all the trouble. Soon after, a guy who works for their boss, Ben, tells Elwood that Ben wants to talk to him. Elwood doesn't trust the guy, so he confronts him. He hurts the guy's fingers because he feels like the guy is being dishonest with him. After that, Elwood talks to Frankie. She feels relieved that Dell is gone because he caused a lot of problems. However, Elwood wants to know more about why Dell did what he did, but Frankie doesn't have all the answers and says she doesn't know much about it. After this, Ben finds out that Elwood did not agree to meet him. This makes Ben really mad. He doesn't want Elwood to take over the Roadhouse, but he gets even more worried when he gets a call from Gerald, his father. Meanwhile, we see a bad guy named Knox in another part of the town causing trouble near the businesses. We see him setting a building on fire. Then, Gerald calls Knox and tells him to deal with a problem at the Roadhouse. At the same time, Ellie asks Elwood to hang out with her. They go to an island nearby to relax. Ellie talks about Dell's death and explains how hard it is to find someone's body because the area is dangerous. Then, Elwood tells Ellie that he knows about Ben's group, and Ellie asks him about where he comes from. However, Elwood cautions Ellie about delving too deeply into his past, admitting his involvement in nefarious activities. However, Ellie reveals she has already researched him online and deems him worthy. Their intimacy deepens with a kiss as they spend time alone on the island. Meanwhile, Ben meets Knox at his house, where Knox assaults him and reveals his assignment to eliminate the bouncer. Ben pleads for a chance to handle the situation himself, promising to remove the bouncer or face consequences. Later, as Ellie parts ways with Elwood near his boat, the police arrive and arrest him. Sheriff Jim, Ellie's father, threatens Elwood with a gun, prompting Ellie to intervene and inquire her father's actions. She explains that Jim has become loyal to Gerald and Ben's ambitions, including their plan to transform the area for illicit activities. Concerned about the escalating danger, Ellie urges Elwood to leave the area and start a new life. Meanwhile, as night falls, two bad guys sneak up to Kat's store, planning to set it on fire, but Kat shows bravery and defends it. Then, we see Elwood heading back to the roadhouse. He's feeling uneasy and troubled due to Ben. Ben wants Elwood to leave, but Elwood is determined to stay and face his past. During a meeting with Ben, he brings up Elwood's history as a fighter, reminding him of a fight with his friend Jetway that ended tragically. Elwood feels guilty for causing Jetway's death, and he's struggling to deal with it. After this, Ben decides to send Knox to deal with Elwood. Knox and his gang cause a chaos at the roadhouse, but Elwood steps in to stop the fighting. Knox, recognizing Elwood, challenges him to a fight, and they engage in a fierce battle, exchanging punches. Despite his injuries, Elwood stands his ground. Eventually, they go spill outside the club, and feeling the pain of his wounds, Elwood decides to retreat. Meanwhile, the club is left in shambles, leaving Frankie heartbroken by the damage. Later, he meets Frankie and admits that he's been keeping secrets. Elwood reveals Ben's plan to take over the roadhouse and turn it into a resort for his drug business. Frankie refuses to sell, but Ben owes money to the mafia, putting his life in danger. Despite the grim situation, Elwood remains calm, showing little concern for the potential consequences. Then, he walks away, leaving Frankie behind, lost in thought. Meanwhile, at the bus station, Elwood learns about an attack on Kat's shop and her father's injuries. It becomes evident that Ben's associates are behind the assault due to Elwood's friendship with Kat. Elwood feels a surge of determination and decides to take action. He confronts Ben at his residence, encountering one of Ben's henchmen. In a swift and decisive move, Elwood kills the henchman. Subsequently, Elwood fights off with the remaining individuals from the premises. Upon learning about the imminent arrival of money intended for the mafia, Elwood decides to leave the scene. Amidst the chaos, Elwood reflects on the recent events and the toll they've taken on him emotionally. He feels conflicted about his involvement in the escalating violence but is determined to protect those he cares about. As he walks away from Ben's residence, Elwood resolves to find a way to put an end to the chaos and ensure the safety of his friends and loved ones. Elwood, feeling remorseful about his past actions, sits alone on his boat, lost in thought. The memory of hurting Jetway in a fight, which led to his worldwide ban, weighs heavily on him, making him feel deeply saddened. The following day, Elwood decides to take matters into his own hands. He steals money from a mafia member and uses it to make a bomb on his boat. Soon after, Jim approaches him, informing him that Ben has kidnapped his daughter, Ellie. Elwood agrees to help and they meet up with Ben. To create a distraction, Elwood detonates the bomb on his boat, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. In the chaos, he fights against Ben and his crew to rescue Ellie. After a fierce battle, Elwood manages to find Ellie, but their boat begins to sink. They swim to the surface, but Elwood realizes that they are still in danger. He urges Ellie to swim away to safety while he distracts their pursuers. However, Ben catches Ellie on another boat and escapes, leaving Elwood behind. However, Knox, one of Ben's men, pursues Elwood, leading to a confrontation on Knox's boat. Elwood fights bravely, eventually overpowering Knox and throwing him overboard. But their struggle attracts the attention of Ben, who arrives on his ship. Elwood and Knox jump from the boat just as Ben's ship collides with the roadhouse, causing extensive damage. As the chaos unfolds around them, Elwood realizes the extent of the destruction caused by his actions. On the other side of town, Knox climbs up a bridge and jumps into a car, speeding off. Meanwhile, Elwood arrives at Roadhouse, where he confronts Ben. In a fierce showdown, Elwood fights back and ultimately defeats Ben, ending his threat for good. However, Knox arrives just in time to challenge Elwood to another intense battle. Despite his injuries, Elwood bravely faces Knox, determined to put an end to the conflict once and for all. As they fight, Knox retaliates fiercely, using wooden pieces to injure Elwood. Ben urges Knox to finish Elwood off, but Elwood refuses to give up, fighting back with all his strength until he finally defeats Knox, leaving him unconscious. After some time, Ellie and Jim rush to the scene. Jim insists that Elwood leave, promising to take care of things. Ellie agrees, trusting her father's judgment. Reluctantly, Elwood bids them farewell and departs. Later, Frankie and her team gather at Roadhouse, determined to rebuild and restore it to its former glory. Meanwhile, Elwood meets Kat at the bus stop and assures her that he will return soon. Kat promises to wait for him, filled with hope for their future together. After this, Elwood leaves with a sense of contentment. Meanwhile, at Kat's father's house, he discovers the money that Elwood left behind, but by then, Elwood has already left the town. In the end, Knox, who miraculously survived, wreaks havoc in the hospital, plotting his revenge against Elwood.